and also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today we'll be doing our grade 7 English lesson on adverbs. So we'll be doing our grade 7 English lesson on adverbs. And before we start with our lesson on adverbs, we are going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. Once you've logged into aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of language arts, grade 7. All right, so once you've selected the subject of language arts, grade 7, and then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter of adverbs. And there's a few lessons that we're going to be doing under our chapter of adverbs, right? So we're going to find out what those lessons are. So we're doing the chapter of adverbs, our English language arts, grade 7, and the lessons that we are focusing on under the chapter of adverbs is to identify adverbs. It's to form and use comparative and superlative adverbs. Well, better, best, badly, worse, and worst. And we're going to do the transitions with conjunctive adverbs. So that is going to be our lessons that we are going to be focusing on under the chapter today of adverbs. And an adverb, right? We start off with what an adverb is. An adverb is a word that describes or modifies a verb. It's either it's a word that describes or it modifies a verb. It basically tells us more about the verb. So it modifies the verb, it modifies the adjective, or it can modify an adverb. And it tells you how, it tells you when, it tells you where, and to what extent or to what degree. So an adverb is a word that describes or modifies a verb, adjective, or adverb. And it tells you how, when, where, to what extent, or to what degree. And some adverbs, they tell you how, right? So now we're going to start with the adverb that tells us how. And adverbs that tells us how, they usually end in ly. So they usually end in ly. So now the question is, how well does she play the accordion? So how well does she play the accordion? So she plays the accordion splendidly. She plays the accordion splendidly. And as you can see, splendidly ends in ly. Splendidly. So if usually they'll give you a sentence, right? For example, she plays the accordion splendidly, and then you ought to identify the adverb, right? But you can always ask yourself, how well does she play the accordion? Or you can basically ask yourself how, when, where, and to what extent, in order for you to maybe find or identify the adverb. And then some of our adverbs, they tell you when, right? They tell you when. So he will perform soon. So now the question is, when will he perform? And then our adverb would be soon. So which means that the sentence that will be given usually is he will perform soon, and then you are to identify the adverb. So when will he perform? And then we can say soon. And in some adverbs, they tell you where, right? They tell you where. And now the question is, where did she go? She went downstairs. So downstairs would be our adverb. So it's like you asking yourself, where did she go? Downstairs is our adverb that we have identified. And then some adverbs that tell you to what extent or degree, right? It tells us to what extent or to what degree, right? So he is not reasonable. So our sentence is he is not reasonable. We need to identify the adverb. And in order for us to identify the adverb, you can ask yourself, to what extent or to what degree is he reasonable? Right? And it's basically he is not reasonable. So basically he is not reasonable. Right? So this is basically our adverbs that either tells us how, tells us where, it tells us when, and it tells us to what extent or to what degree. And during the course of the lesson, we are going to find out more how we can identify our adverbs, how to identify the adverbs. We are going to identify adverbs as well as form the comparative and superlative adverbs. And we are doing our tutorial lesson on A plus students.ca. So we're doing a tutorial lesson on A plus students.ca. All right, so now we're going to A plus students.ca. And we're going to the first lesson, which is to identify adverbs. And we already made mention of, we made examples of how, when, where, and to what degree or extent, right? Because we said an adverb is a word that describes or modifies a verb, an adjective, or an adverb, and it's how, when, where, to what extent, or to what degree. All right, and we already made a few examples of adverbs that tells you how, adverbs that tells you when, adverbs that tells you where, and adverbs that tells you to what degree or to what extent. All right, so now we're going to our test. So we now need to select we need to select three adverbs. My landlord, who is amazingly handy, just fixed my leaky faucet and promised to repair my stove tomorrow. So the three adverbs, is it amazingly, just, or tomorrow? Or in the next one, the second option, is it just, leaky, tomorrow? So we now need to select the three adverbs. Is it option one, which is amazingly, just, tomorrow? Or is it option two, just, leaky, tomorrow? All right, and if we choose the correct answer, we will choose option one, right? Because he's amazingly handy, right? He does things fixed, just, fixed, and tomorrow, which tells us when, right? So well done. Great job. We need to select the two adverbs. The donuts that I purchased yesterday were too stale to eat, so I discarded them. So the two adverbs, is it yesterday or so? Or is it yesterday and too? Too stale. So yesterday so or yesterday too. All right, and if we identify the adverbs, right, and then we will identify it as option two, which is yesterday and too. My dog Astro is completely loyal to me, but my cat generally ignores me. We need to select two adverbs. Is it completely and generally, or is it completely and but? So completely and generally, or completely and but. And if we identify our adverbs, right, and then we will choose option one, which is completely and generally. So well done. Completely and generally is correct. All right, so now we're going to select our three adverbs, right? The TV station is forecasting severely cold weather. So Ali and I will stay inside today. So we need to select the three adverbs. Is it severely, Ali, inside, or Ali? Or is it severely inside today? So we need to choose the correct option. Severely, Ali, inside, or severely inside today. So it's like asking you how. There's also where, inside, when, today. So which means that we will choose option two because Ali is a noun. So well done. Option two is correct. All right, so now we're going on to our next lesson where we're going to form and use comparative and superlative adverbs. So when we make mention of superlative and comparative adverbs, right, that is where we compare adverbs, right? And usually when we compare adverbs, it means that we either add an ER or we add EST. But we are going to find out how we can compare adverbs, right? And how to use the comparative and superlative adverbs. So comparative adverb, right? It compares the actions of a person, a thing or group of a group to the actions of some other person, thing, or group. So comparative adverbs, it compares the actions of a person, thing, or group to the actions of some other person, thing, or group. And then we also have superlative adverbs, which compares the actions of a person, thing, or group to the actions of a larger group that is part of a that it is part of. So that is comparative. So comparative, right? It's like we are comparing two people, things, or groups, or two. But the superlative, right? It's where it is more of a larger or bigger group, right? So it's been compared to a larger or bigger group. And when we have adverbs, right? And when we have adverbs that basically only have one syllable, we add er to our adverb to make the comparative adverb. And we then add est to make superlative adverb. And remember, we said a superlative is where we compare it to a more larger group. And if the base ends with an e, if the base word ends with an e, then we drop the e before adding er or est. All right, so now if we look at our examples, right? Here we have soon. That is our base word. We have an adverb that is soon. So when, soon. If we compare that adverb to to something else, right? Or to some other person, thing, or group, right? Then we would add er. So it would be soon, sooner. And if we add it to a larger group, and then we would say soonest, where we add an est. And for adverbs that have more than one syllables, right, we add more to make the comparative adverb, and we add most to make it a superlative. So this is only when you have two syllables or two or more syllables within a word. And for the adverbs, for example, early, right? We then drop the Y and we add the IER to make the comparative adverb, right? And we add IEST to make the superlative adverb. So we have early, earlier, earliest. So we drop the Y and we either add the IER or the IEST. And with more than one syllable, for example, safely, two syllables, right? Then we either add more to the comparative adverb and we add most to the superlative adverb. So more safely, most safely. All right. Let's go to our test. We need to complete the sentence with the correct comparative and superlative adverb, right? The man running the antiques auction talks even, do we say fast or faster than Ross does? So the man running the antiques auction talks even, do we say talks even fast or do we talk even faster than Ross does? All right, so if we are comparing, then we can say he even talks faster. Because remember, fast is our base word, but if you're comparing it to either one thing, person, or so on, Then we say faster, adding the ER. All right, so faster is correct. Well done. Lamont seems to think do we say the most scientifically of all friends, or he seems to think the scientifically of all friends? So do we say most scientifically or scientifically? And if we basically compare Lemon to all of his friends, and it means it's a superlative adverb, right? Which means that we are going to add most scientifically. So Lemon seems to think the most scientifically of all his friends. So most scientifically is correct. Well done. And now that I have crutches, I can move around independently or more independently than I could before. So is it just independently or is it more independently? So do we say now that I have crutches, I can move around independently than I could before or more independently than I could before? And remember we said that if it has two or more syllables, right? Then we either add more or most in front of it. All right, which means that we are going to choose more independently. And this is what we mentioned about if you have two or more syllables, and then you either add more to the comparative adverb or you add most to the superlative adverb. So more independently is correct. So well done also for getting that correct. All right, so now we're going on to the next lesson, which is well, better, best, badly, worse, and worst. All right. So now we're going on to well, better, best, badly, worse, and worst. And this is also still part of comparative and superlative adverbs. All right. So now we see that we are going to correct the superlative as well as the comparative adverb, right? And we said a comparative adverb, it compares the actions of a person, thing, or group to the actions of some other person, thing, or group. And a comparative, superlative, It compares the actions of a person, thing, or group to the actions of a larger group that it is part of. So the adverbs well and badly are irregular, right? But now we have our base word that is, for example, well. So we have well, better, best, badly, worse, and worst. And that is when we use either one of those words when we have to compare adverbs, right? All right. Now we're going on to this test, right? Where we are either going to mention well, better, best, badly, worse, or worst. So the interior designer decorated our home. Do we say well or do we say better than I had expected him today? So the interior designer decorated our home. Do we say better or well than I had expected him to do? All right. So if we select the correct answer, we can say that he did it way better than what I had expected. So better is correct. Well done. Joel argued his point well than Alec or better than Alec and won the debate. So Joel argued his point well or better than Alec and won the debate. So do we say well or better than Alec? All right, so if we select our correct answer, we will say he argued it better than Alec. So better than Alec. So you should ask Jonathan for directions. He knows his way around. Do we say better than I do or well than I do? So better than I do or well than I do. So we can say better than I do. So better than I do. And then Bob adjusted his pitching motion and now he throws much. Do we say much better than before or much well than before? So Bob adjusted his pitching motion and now he throws much better than before. So much better than before. So well done, better is correct. So better or well. So many people feel that the vice presidential candidate connects with voters better than the presidential candidate does. Well done. So we've had, okay, let's go back. And now we're going to the last one, which is transitions with conjunctive adverbs. Is it transition? Yeah, transitions with conjunctive adverbs. So conjunctive adverbs, right? Conjunctive adverbs are words that connect two sentences or independent clauses that shows a relationship between them. So conjunctive adverbs are words that connect either two sentences or independent clauses and shows the relationship between them. So conjunctive adverbs can help readers understand how ideas within a piece of writing can relate to one another. All right, if we look at a few examples of conjunctive adverbs, right? Show, cause and effect. Show, cause and effect. And that is consequently, therefore, as a result, etc. Then we have compare or contrast ideas. For example, and we basically contrast or ideas or compare ideas by using words like likewise, however, on the contrary, etc. And then in order for us to add more information, right, we use words like moreover. This is now within sentences, moreover. In addition, furthermore. And if you want to introduce or elaborate, then you can use words like incidentally. For example, in fact. And to use the conjunctive adverbs, you need to consider how the ideas within the text relate to one another and what relationships are suggested by different conjunctive adverbs. All right, so now we're going on to our test. We need to complete the text with the better conjunctive adverb. With the better conjunctive adverb. Monica's hockey team won the state championship early today. Do we say hence or do we say nevertheless? She and her teammate had an excuse for their rather boisterous behavior at Donato's restaurant tonight. So do we say hence or do we say nevertheless? So Monica's field hockey team won the state championship earlier today. Hence, she and her teammates had an excuse for their rather boisterous behavior at the restaurant. And this is our conjunctive adverbs, right? And we're using hence, right, to show the conjunctive adverb. And male, Cathy is a candidates, communicate with female, communicate with females by rubbing their wings together. Most candidate species hit notes between 5 kilohertz and 30 kilohertz. Do we say however or do we say indeed? A recently discovered candidate known as supersonus produces frequencies of 150 kilohertz, the highest pitched mating call on the planet. So it's either however or indeed. All right, and if we choose the correct conjunctive adverb, we will say, however, a recently discovered, right? So, however is correct. All right, so that is our lesson on adverbs, right? Where we said adverbs basically describes or modifies the verb, the adverb, the adjective, right? And we can either compare adverbs, right, by comparing either one person or a group of people, which is comparative, or a larger group of people, which is superlative, right? And then when there is when we have two syllables or more, then we use words like well, better, best, or badly, worse, or worse, depending on our sentence. All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on adverbs. Thank you very much for joining the class, and thank you for being interactive, right? And I hope you're going to have a good day further. Goodbye.